Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of Power Core Productions and Podcastings. I'm your host, Javon Harrington, back to hit you with another video. And today, we are going to be continuing Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm, Naruto Shippuden Crossover Power Rangers Ninja Storm, based on the Heroes of the Morphin Grid series, Part 1. As always, if you're a fan of the channel and everything that we have now and in the future, then please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit that bell for post notifications so you can stay up to date on everything that is Power Core Productions and Podcasting that's to come out now and in the future. Well folks, it's almost that time. We are at 1,905 subscribers as of the recording of this video. And as you all know, May 2nd is a special day for me. For one, May 2nd is my birthday. But also, May 2nd is more of a precursor than anything else. While I can't really pinpoint the date per se, I want to say it's May 2nd, but honestly, it could have been May 4th in my honest opinion. Between May 2nd and May 4th of 2020, I rebooted my channel. I rebooted it and I made it into something different. For those of you who know me, my old channel used to be that of sports commentary. But back when I was doing sports commentary for well over 2 years, I only had 25 subscribers and I barely got 5 views on a video. I was thinking about quitting YouTube and giving up on the dream when I thought to myself, what was something that I really wanted to do? And that was being an anime YouTuber, telling what-if stories, doing reviews on anime, things of that nature. And I've had a lot of inspiration getting there. I was inspired by the Clawmans, by the Geekdom 101s and their what-if stories, by Laughingstock Media, who no longer does YouTube. He retired actually some time ago, but still, he was an inspiration for me to do what I do now. Kryptonian Saiyan and Naruto Explained, as he goes by also today. I'm encouraged by those videos. Masenko X, and so on and so forth. Giguk, Sea-Dog VA, the Anime Man. You know, the list goes on and on and on. These guys have inspired me to do what I do today, and honestly, I don't think I would be where I am today if it wasn't for them. So, you know, not that they'll ever see this video, but I do thank them for being the motivation for me to get here. But also, I have to say thank you to all of you guys, to everyone who watches my videos, to everyone who supports my channel. Like I always say, I cannot do it without you. You make the channel grow. You make the core grow. And to see Power Core Productions grow from what it once was to what it is now, I am truly thankful and I am truly grateful to all of you. So as we approach 2K and beyond, as we set our goals to the next level, I want to say thank you to everyone again who supports Power Core Productions and Podcastings, and I hope that I can keep entertaining you, keep making you proud, and give you content that you can enjoy for years to come. But anyway, without further ado, let's get into today's video. As always, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Naruto and the other Ninja Storm Rangers would be flying inside of the Green Eagle Zord as they hurried to the Sand Village, following news of the attack on the Kazekage, Tamari's brother, Gaara. As they made their way, Naruto would notice from down below 2 shinobi making their way also. He would be able to recognize them as Kakashi and Sakura. They would stop what they were doing just long enough to pick the 2 of them up before continuing their way to the Sand Village. Kakashi and Sakura would be shocked to say the least, as they had never seen a Zord before. You see, at this point in the shinobi world, while technology did exist, it wasn't to this advancement of a degree. Even something as simple as a hot air balloon or something along those lines would be considered revolutionary by their standards. But to actually be in a large metal contraption was far beyond their expectations. Of course, the Zords in and of themselves in this universe weren't just robotic structures. They were also powered by chakra and various forms of ninjutsu. It was an ultimate combination of the two that resulted in something like this. But on the more important note, both Kakashi and Sakura would be happy to see Naruto again, and Naruto would be happy to see him with his friends. Naruto would also ask Kakashi how Captain Yamato was doing, his chaperone during his 2.5 years of training. Kakashi would remark that Captain Yamato was doing fine back in the Leaf, and that he and everyone else looked forward to seeing him again after the mission was over. And Naruto looked forward to seeing his friends also. While on the way, Naruto would introduce Kakashi and Sakura to the other Rangers. Already knowing Temari, Naruto would allow them to get to meet everyone else. Chojuro, Kaori, Karasuchi, and even Cam, although he was busy flying the Zord at the moment. What would really take a 3-day trip was now cut to mere hours, and before long, the group would arrive in the hidden sand village. Once arriving, Sakura would quickly make her way to the hospital, being there to help Kankuro and save him from the poison that he received in his fight against Sasori. As they waited outside, Granny Chio would arrive and would attack Kakashi, seeing his white hair and believing that he was Satomu Hatake, Kakashi's father who had killed Chio's son and daughter-in-law during the events of the Second Shinobi World War, although Naruto would get in the way and stop her attack, before Chio's brother would point out that the White Fang had died a long time ago, remarking that she even mourned his death as she would never get a chance to get her vengeance. Chio would then laugh and play it off, apologizing, before getting a chance to meet all of the other Rangers and getting to know what they were all about. Of course, for someone like Chio still set in her ways about the world and the way it worked, she wasn't too fond of the idea of this team and what it stood for. The hatred of the shinobi world ran deep, and this was something that could not be easily ignored. Even if their powers were to be used for the greater good, in the end of the day, there were still wounds that would take a long time to heal. In this very union of shinobi, each one being from a great nation in and of itself, was something that there were many might not accept. In the meantime, as Sakura had finished healing Kankuro, she would also begin to make a cure for Sasori's poisons, using whatever herbs and other medical properties that the sand had at their disposal. Her mastery over medical ninjutsu, as well as her ability to create an antidote to the poison, tipped off Chio that Sakura had received training under the 5th Hokage and her rival from the Second Shinobi World War, in Lady Tsunade. In the meantime, Kakashi would use a scrap of cloth taken from Sasori's robe by Kankuro. Using his ninja hounds, they would be able to track the Akatsuki duo, and thankfully, it had only been less than 9 hours since Gaara had been taken, so there was a big chance of getting him back relatively safe. However, Temari would be more headstrong than anyone to go after her brother. While some believed that Temari should stay back, Cam would instead come up with a compromise. Instead, a few of the Rangers would go and help, while the others would stay back and watch over the sand. Ultimately, Cam decided that he, Naruto, Temari, and Kaori would go with Kakashi, Sakura, and Chio, while Chojuro and Kurasuchi would stay back and guard the Sand Village. As the two Beetle Rangers, the Thunder Rangers themselves, they would be able to form the Thunder Megazord if needed, As such, they would have more than enough strength to defend the village in the meantime. Once they agreed upon this, the groups would split off and make their way. As they did so, Chio would come to learn more about Naruto and understand his desires to rescue Gaara. Being a Jinchuriki himself, he understood the pain that Gaara went through. And now, the idea that his kind were being hunted by the Akatsuki, it did more to piss him off than anything. But not just Naruto. Cam, Tamari, and Kaori as well felt the same. Kaori especially, as her master, Killer Bee from the Hidden Cloud Village, was also a Jinchuriki, and from what she had seen of him, he was always a kind-hearted man, despite how sometimes the village treated him. As Chio saw this, the bonds that had been formed by Naruto and his team of rangers, she now come to slowly understand that their bond was even deeper than that of the hatred sown by this world. And in doing so, it caused her to start to soften her heart, to wonder if maybe things could be different. In case of backup, Lady Tsunade would have already sent word for Team Guy to go and assist, and in doing so, the two groups would be stopped by two members of the Akatsuki. Team Guy would be intercepted by Kisame, while Naruto's group would be intercepted by Itachi Uchiha. To say that Itachi would be surprised would be an understatement, as Naruto, Cam, Kaori, and Tamari would morph into the red, yellow, blue, and green Ninja Storm Rangers. Kakashi, Sakura, and Chio now getting a chance to see what these ranger forms were, as well as seeing the powers that they possessed. And the power was truly great. Naruto enhanced with the power of the red Ninja Storm Ranger. His attacks hit much harder than before. His ninjutsu was far more stronger, and he was a lot more versed in wind-style ninjutsu. Thankfully, his training with Tamari helped in that regard greatly, as the two of them were wind users. And Kaori, being skilled in lightning release, used that affinity for jutsu. And Cam, being a skilled swordsman in his own right, as well as dabbling in various forms of ninjutsu also, proved to be invaluable. Ultimately, when led and coordinated by Kakashi, the team was able to function and move together as one. Doing so, they pushed Itachi to his limits, being able to defeat him relatively quickly. Although in doing so, they would discover that this Itachi was not the real one, but instead was simply a clone made from a corpse body. And the same would go for Kisame and Team Guy as well. After defeating the clones, both teams would converge together as they made their way towards the cave where the Akatsuki duo were hiding. It hadn't been too long since they had begun the extraction of the One-Tails, and in doing so they were still in the early stages. As Team Guy went to remove the seals around the cave, they would trigger the trap, and in doing so, once each one removed the seal, they would end up facing a doppelganger of themselves. As Sakura moved forward using her monstrous strength, she would smash the wall to the cave open, as everyone made their way inside. Gaara would still be struggling and fighting against his tormentors in agony, and Naruto would quickly create multiple shadow clones, as multiple forms of the Red Ranger would move throughout the room, as Naruto went and freed Gaara immediately, before attacking both Sasori and Deidara. The ritual would be disrupted, and the other members of the Akatsuki would now be very angry. Their leader more so than anything, as the preparations made should have given them more than enough time. Even if reinforcements were supposed to arrive, they should have had at least 3 days, which, when dealing with the One-Tails, the weakest of all of the tailed beasts, should have been at least enough time for them to extract the Jinchuriki's tailed beast from itself. But now, it seemed as though their plans had gone awry, as both Sasori and Deidara would try to regroup and launch their counterattack. Naruto would send multiple shadow clones towards them at once, as the group would have to try to fend them off in the process. Before long, the fight would break off into twofold. As Gaara was freed, he would thank everyone for their assistance. Temari and Naruto especially glad that Gaara was safe, as they now turned their attention to the enemy. As Deidara made his way outside, Kakashi would leave Deidara to Naruto, Temari, and Kaori, the red, yellow, and blue Ninja Storm Rangers, as they headed out immediately. In the meantime, Kakashi, Cam, Sakura, Gaara, and Chiyo would face off against Sasori. To understand the true formality of the battle, you need to take into account the powers of the individuals involved. In the first battle, Sasori versus Kakashi, Sakura, Cam, the Green Ninja Storm Ranger, Gaara, and Chiyo, Sasori is ultimately outclassed in this fight, and I will briefly explain to you why. While the versions of Sakura, Kakashi, Chiyo, and Gaara are the same as in the original timeline, that also applies to Sasori. And keep in mind, Chiyo and Sakura alone were able to defeat Sasori, even if it was just due to Sasori's whim. But now you add the likes of Kakashi, having competent teammates to back him up. He doesn't have to overuse his Sharingan, and in fact, he doesn't have to use the Mangekyo Sharingan or use the Kamui. As a result, Kakashi is not drained of his stamina and is able to fight a lot longer. Also, you would have Gaara, who, while he would be a bit fatigued, having lost around 10% of the One-Tail's chakra, he still has over 90% to draw upon, and Gaara is still a powerful character in his own right, along with Chiyo, the master puppeteer in the Sand Village. But then there's Cam. This is a variant of the Cam from the Power Rangers Ninja Storm series. This version of Cam had a mother who was a shinobi and a father who was a samurai. Now, they weren't anything of great note. You would say that Cam's mother was the run-of-the-mill shinobi who knew basics in ninjutsu, genjutsu, and taijutsu, and Cam's father was a skilled swordsman, being the son of the leader of the samurai in Mifune. So, adding those two components together, Cam would be a decent shinobi in his own right, and fighter. But when you add the Power Ranger powers on top of that, then you truly have a character who can do a lot of damage. It's often played for laughs in the Power Ranger universe, but I think a lot of people tend to misunderstand that Power Rangers are extremely powerful. The average team of Power Rangers alone can be pretty dangerous. Your average Ranger has the ability to lift 2 to 3 tons, and that's just for your average team, not taking into account power-ups and various teams and powers that are a lot stronger than others. If you were to compare Zeo to Mighty Morphin, the Zeo Rangers have a power that, as stated in the series, are stronger than before. So Zeo alone is stronger than Mighty Morphin, and Mighty Morphin is no slouch either. But when you combine the Power Ranger abilities that are used to enhance the user that has them, and you have them enhancing the powers of Naruto characters, then you truly have a devastating partnership. And in a fight like this, even with Sasori giving it his all, he just wouldn't have an answer for everyone coming at him at once. His strongest puppet alone would be the third Kazekage puppet, using the third Kazekage's jutsu, that being the Iron Sand. But between having the One-Tails and Gaara being able to match with his own sand ability, Sakura and Chiyo, who were able to defeat the third Kazekage puppet on their own without backup, but then when you include the backup of Gaara, the One-Tails, Kakashi of the Sharingan, and Cam, the Green Ninja Storm Ranger, then you're truly dealing with a situation in which Sasori just ultimately cannot come out on top. Ultimately, Sasori would be forced to use his 100 puppets jutsu a lot sooner than he does in the original timeline. But even then, that would not sway the tide of battle in his favor. You would already have Sakura and Chiyo, along with her legendary 10 puppets jutsu, and that combo alone was able to counter the 100 puppets. On top of that, you would have Kakashi of the Sharingan, a master in over 1000 ninjutsu, and also a user of the Shadow Clone Jutsu, along with Cam, the Green Ninja Storm Ranger, along with Gaara, wielder of Sand, and also the One-Tailed Jinchuriki. Ultimately, this would prove to be too much for Sasori to overcome, and Sasori would not die on the account of just letting himself be killed, but rather, the group would just be able to kill him, especially with Kakashi's Sharingan being able to detect Sasori's weak spot a lot sooner. They would know what to aim for. While Sasori's only choice would be to retreat, ultimately he wouldn't get the chance to, as he would be taken down then and there. However, the true change of events would occur after the battle. As Sasori is preparing to die, he would, on a whim, give them information that would change everything. That being of his meeting with the spy that has been looking after Orochimaru for some time now. And their meeting was to take place at Tenchi Bridge in 10 days' time. While this news would be a shock to both Sakura and Kakashi, as a meeting with a spy connected to Orochimaru could lead them back to Sasuke, this would also be news to Cam as well, for Orochimaru was the one that killed his parents long ago. In the meanwhile, we would then shift our focus over to the second battle at hand, that being Deidara facing off against the red, yellow, and blue Ninja Storm Rangers in Naruto, Temari, and Karui. In this term of battle, while Deidara would have some advantage with his earth style, his clay explosions, in the end, as stated previously, the powers of a Power Ranger are truly versatile and formidable, and in the hands of shinobi who have been training rigorously for 2 years to hone and master their crafts, Deidara is ultimately in a situation where he simply cannot overcome them. Between facing off against Naruto, the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, and the goal of the Akatsuki, he can't afford to kill Naruto. As such, he's limited in his own jutsu and techniques. But also another thing to keep in mind is that Temari, the Yellow Ranger, is a long-range fighter, using her wind ninjutsu to slice and cut from a distance. And then you will also have Karui, a close-range fighter in her own right, skilled with a sword, but also being from the Cloud Village and being a student of the Eight-Tails Jinchuriki and Killer Bee, she would be skilled in lightning-style jutsu itself, more than likely even being able to release lightning chakra to a certain degree. Maybe not on par with the Raikage's lightning-style cloak, but she could definitely discharge it and use it to her advantage to unfuse Deidara's various explosions, which are made from earth-style ninjutsu, and lightning is the counter to earth release. In doing so, this three-man team would prove to be too much for Deidara to handle, and ultimately, Deidara would have no choice but to retreat back with the Akatsuki, having to admit defeat rather begrudgingly. Following their respective battles, the two teams would regroup and they would once again make their way back to the Sand Village. Once they arrived there, Gaara would undergo some medical treatment and would be given time to recover, although the damage wouldn't be too severe, and he would be extremely thankful to the Rangers and everyone for coming to his aid. But seeing Naruto battle would also encourage Gaara to want to do better, to truly master the power of the One-Tails, believing that if Naruto can make strides and efforts to improve in his mastery over the Nine-Tails, then he should definitely do the same. Naruto would be happy for this, but then there would be another situation that would occur. As the Rangers would speak amongst themselves, they would quickly come to the realization that the Akatsuki were not just going to go after Gaara, but all of the Jinchuriki for the most part. Being a team for over 2.5 years, training together, learning together, growing together, and getting to know one another a lot better, would make them all realize that their duty to the world was to protect it. If the Akatsuki got their hands on all of the Jinchuriki, then that could prove to be fatal. Maybe this was the evil that they were supposed to face, the great threat that they needed to stop. If it was the Akatsuki, and their goal was the Jinchuriki, then maybe the Rangers' ultimate responsibility was to guard and protect the Jinchuriki. With that, Cam would make the decision to allow the Rangers to return to their homelands, to seek out any Jinchuriki they could find, and to try to protect them at all costs. And if needed, they would join and help one another whenever possible. Cam wasn't sure of when they would meet again, but he believed it would be soon. And after all, it had been 2.5 years, and it was time for them to go back home to their respective loved ones and families. Tamari would stay with Gaara in the Sand Village. Chojuro planned to return back to the Hidden Mist. Before he had left, the Mizukage had changed rather slightly. The village was slowly reforming itself, but still the history of the Blood Mist village prevailed. Chojuro understood that the Mizukage, Kagura, was also the Three Tails Jinchuriki. If he was going to aid the Mizukage, then maybe that was the best role for him. In the meanwhile, Kurasuchi would return back to the Stone Village, although she would have a hard time, as the whereabouts of the 4 and the 5 tails was unknown to the village. Roshi was always a bit of a wanderer in his own right, and no one had seen where Don had gone. But she believed she could find one of them at least, and she would pursue her searches there. In the meantime, Kaori would return back to the Cloud Village, and decided that she would go back to being under her master Killer Bee, the 8 Tails Jinchuriki. And as for Naruto, he was already the 9 Tails Jinchuriki, but he also served as the Red Ranger. While he was capable of protecting himself, he was also a target for the Akatsuki. And that's when Cam decided that he would return back to the Hidden Leaf with Naruto, as he would remark he had ties there of a kind. Before everyone left, they would meet one last time. As they stood together in solidarity, they promised they would carry out their duties, and with that, each ranger would set off to their own homeland, to their village, with the goal of protecting the Jinchuriki from the Akatsuki at all costs. After a while, Naruto and the others would say their goodbyes to Gaara, Gaara once again thanking Naruto for his assistance. And with that, Naruto, along with Team 7 and Team Guy, would make their way back to the Hidden Leaf Village. Naruto getting a chance to catch up with Sakura, Lee, Neji, and Tenten, as well as looking forward to meeting with the others after being gone for so long. He would finally get a chance to tell them about his training and his adventures. Before leaving though, Naruto did have one goodbye that would stand out to him for a while. As he was preparing to leave, Kurasuchi would pull him out of nowhere, punching him in the arm for good luck, making Naruto angry as he thought she had gotten over bullying and teasing him as such. However, his anger would quickly be turned to confusion, as the Crimson Ninja Ranger would give him a peck on the cheek, telling him not to get captured or killed, otherwise she'd beat him senseless, before running off back to her home. Naruto would stand there flabbergasted for a moment, not entirely sure of how to feel at that moment. He wasn't sure if he should be happy, angry, embarrassed, perplexed. There were so many emotions going through his mind he had no idea. But at the very least, he was happy to finally be making his way back home. However, as the team were leaving, Kakashi would speak to Cam, as he could see the look in his eyes. Cam was surprised that Kakashi noticed, and the Jonin would ask him what was troubling him. Cam explained that whenever they left, if there was a mission team going to Tenchi Bridge, he wanted to go with them as well. When Kakashi asked his reasoning, Cam would only look at him with an expression, one that Kakashi had seen time and time again, an expression he was all too familiar with. When he looked into Cam's eyes, he saw the eyes of someone who craved one thing, and that was vengeance and retribution. In the meanwhile, deep within a cave in a hideout among that of the hidden sound, a black figure would make his way through the room. He had just defeated over 100 opponents as he sheathed his sword back into its scythe. As he did so, the dark figure would transform. In doing so, his black robes would seemingly disappear, and the black helmet that covered his face would now be revealed. As the boy's eyes flickered from red to black, a device strapped to his left wrist, he would look up to his master, wondering if he was finally impressed with what he had been able to do. As he looked up, his master, Orochimaru, would look down to his student, very much pleased. There had been many complications to Orochimaru's overall plans and goals. Things had changed all those years ago since he stole the device from the samurai. A prototype, but all the same, it still could be useful. This new power, he would claim it for himself, as well as the body of the one that used it. But these were thoughts that he would keep to himself for now. Orochimaru would look onward and nod in approval, as his new vessel and the power itself was now on full display. Sasuke Uchiha, the Black Ninja Storm Ranger, would soon be unleashed upon the world. This concludes Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm, Naruto Shippuden Crossover Power Rangers Ninja Storm, Part 1. As always, if you enjoyed today's video and everything else that we have on the channel, then please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit that bell for post notifications so you can stay up to date on everything that is Power Core Productions and Podcasting that has to come out now and in the future. Stay tuned for tomorrow's video as we continue Fire Force Lightspeed Rescue, Fire Force Crossover Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue, based on the Heroes of the Morphin Grid series, Part 1. But anyway, that's going to do it for the end of today's video. I'm Javon Harrington with Power Core Productions and Podcastings, signing off, and I'll see you next time.